Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Obra Dinn. I changed the dial on the back of my microphone, which turned out to be a gain dial, and I think I turned it all the way down. So things should, to me, they sound pretty much exactly the same, but I think they might be a little bit better, hopefully. Let's get back into this game. So we have this horn, like bison head, which... So we're following the death of a cow. Hmm. Hmm. Seems like they're killing a cow instead of a bull.
Never been on a farm, Chuck.
Hmm. Hmm. So, questionable why you would bring a cow with you in the first place. Certainly. Let's see if we can name this guy. Oops. Well, Charles Minor, the bosun's mate, perhaps. Interesting that the audio just kind of collects. He could be Charles Hersink. We don't know. They did that on purpose to have two Charles. Yeah, it's weird to have a cow on the ship. Like, unless you were bringing over a lot of animals. It's kind of weird to have pigs too. I could see chickens making a lot of sense, but pigs are pretty nasty creatures, and thus them being in cages. Wild hogs in particular are pretty nasty. Here we have some Chinese characters protecting this area, so that probably tells us the Chinese people were living there. And then we have a guy with a monkey, and then we have somebody being dragged up the stairs, and we've started a new chapter without really solving the solutions to the previous chapter, which that's just how this game is going to go. A large cow was slaughtered for its meat. Yeah. I don't know why you would bring it on ship. If you wanted meat, why not salted cured meats that you wouldn't have to feed and take care of? And why bring a cow that wouldn't be able to really eat grass, so you'd have to then bring around grass? 10 other people were present. Wow, that's a large number. Yeah, why would you... Yeah, they're dragging a body up here. Why bring a live animal when you could have cured, packed, stored food? You wouldn't have milk. You would have alcohol or fresh water in barrels. I'm pretty sure back in olden days there was very little instances of anybody past a certain age drinking milk at all. Honestly, if you were going to get milk, you'd get a goat. Goats eat way more stuff and are smaller as far as space. It is interesting to have a dead cow bring to the next death.
They must have picked it up at the Alaska house. I checked all hands just now, and everyone is healthy.
And him? What are his chances?
I gave him some laudanum. We'll see.
Laudanum, a pretty deadly heavy metal mercury type, which I imagine you'd describe it more as poison than a cure. Alright, well, one of these guys is the doctor. And we may have to make some assumptions here as to who we think the doctor is. I mean, that looks like that could be the doctor. But that also looks like that could be the doctor. And notice that that execution image probably helps a lot as far as everybody is in like formal dress. We don't really know who that guy is. We don't know who this is. And I didn't even walk around enough to really look around. So the lesson here is to definitely walk around and look at everything. In the surgeon's room. Or are they? How did they die? We do know, at the very least, we are assuming he died from illness. We can go that far. But getting one fact correct is not good enough. You need to get 3 out of 3. So you have to get 3 people's fates completely accurate with those 3 different facts: who they are, how they died, and often who caused their death. And then we'll scan this next one. I looked at the Wikipedia listing, and it does really only list Lucas Pope as the person who worked on this game. So I'll be interested to see if there's more people mentioned in the credits. Because I think you need at least a minor orchestra here. I cannot believe that he is so talented to create a 1-bit styles, what this is being described as, visual style. All of the gameplay storyline mechanics, and also the music. That would just be a blow too much to my own ego, to think somebody's such a good jack of all trades. Okay. That's Syed. Alright, well. So let's go ahead and mark him. We know it's not him, and they put a line through it. So once the lines start to eliminate people, there's a Solomon Syed from India. Do Indians say the last name? I'm not sure. But I also wouldn't be surprised if they put the names backwards just because of a mistake. Right. There's something I remember, and I don't want to really spoil it, but there's something specific here about the numbers that will just tell you exactly who they are. So this is probably one of the most difficult puzzles, and I'm just gonna cheat it right now. This guy is in 51, and this guy is in 10. This is a deduction rating. Interesting. The higher rating means that this person will be more difficult to deduce this person's identity. Focus on easier deduced identities first and leave the more difficult ones. So I can't just say this is Winston Smith the carpenter. I think there's probably is a good... We'll take that as fact. And then 53, we don't know who that is. This is 58. And we can see the shoes, but not the person. This is 57. Like, there's a lot of people covered up there. I think at some point might very well have to decide to make some guesses just based on shoes. Yeah, there's just a lot of people. And so you could really knock down the numbers real fast if you can see their faces. But they seem to all sleep with blankets over their faces. Which, okay. Fair enough, I imagine. Here we have somebody with a tattoo, and that's 37. So if we can see the lady tattoo on the right arm in a future point, we know who that is. And that's going to get the numbers down very quickly. Interesting that you still can't open doors in the dreams. 51. Did we get this guy? Yeah. Not as much as you would like, and you can't go up in this point. And that's certainly not going to be helpful information. But we got one person at least. So, 3 people died in the bitter cold. And we're not really sure if these are right. But I think they are. But it does kind of give the indication that there very easily is one more thing I need to find. There's little holes here that look pretty round, so I assume that those are intentional, not blood spot drips, but they may be blood drips. Yeah. If I'm able to completely fill out one more fate, we know something's wrong. Okay. So this one has been stabbed through the wall by a giant spider-like creature. And then, so you can't really run here. And this guy, here, let's go ahead and memories are where a person can be navigated, where this person appears can be navigated from here. Interesting. You can bookmark our memories where they appear for quicker navigation. Really are. are getting to a weird point here where you're still getting tutorialized. And I guess that matters because this game really does need to hold your hand. Otherwise, you are going to fail pretty miserably. It's funny it says it's a catalog of adventure and tragedy. Really, there seems to be only tragedy. The idea that this world runs into a kraken and giant spider-like creatures is also interesting. It was spiked, I believe, by a terrible beast. It once again shows that this is a very different kind of world. And it's a world full of monsters and cursed objects and magical objects. And see, what would be really, really crazy is if this turned out to be the way that Lucas Pope introduced a third game, and it was something like the game Dishonored, which is also sort of nautical and its own weird kind of story world building and environment. That would be actually fairly amazing to stay within your limits for your next game, and then be able to transcend your limits and get so good at making games that your next game could feel like a AAA game, even as an indie developer. On the other hand, it might be much smarter and safer if Lucas Pope would just license the Obra Dinn universe to a different company with more people that could put more time into it. Because I kind of would like to see more of a world around this, like this. Maybe on land. So this guy's been spiked by a terrible monster. This guy's trying to open that hatch. This guy's... Here they stabbed it. This giant crab-like creature. And they're trying to throw water on it. I don't know why. Probably poison spikes if I was to guess. Here you have another guy. Yeah, it's real easy to just focus on these crab creatures or on the thing that's obviously right in front of you and not pay attention. Oh, he's dousing it in alcohol to burn it. That's what he's doing. And yeah, there's still like 2 other creatures, I think, in this game. It's a spoiler. Slight spoiler there. Interesting. It faded to black and brought me here, back to this point, to then reveal this. Is just going the long way around, spinning around in circles. To figure out this guy. Of course, this time it doesn't have the spikes in it. So the creature itself seems to have been spiked. With like wooden spikes and spears. half of all of these things seem like they are screams. Alright, so they threw, after stabbing this and spiking it with spikes, either that or the creature just magically generated spikes out of his side. They then threw alcohol on it and started it on fire, which we heard this guy screaming, so he was not killed by the creature. He was, in fact, burnt alive by his own crew members. Although I don't know if you really blame them for that. And this angle shows the creature a little bit differently. Here we have a guy with a hand cannon. Some more dead bodies. Seems like there might be more of them because they're looking in different directions. He was burned to death. I guess there is a logic to start labeling them if we can, to say he was burned, if he was stabbed by an officer. If I eliminate all but one officer, then I know who the unknown officer would have been, although it may not even really matter at that point. I thought I saw someone hiding back over here around this corner, but I guess I misperceived something. You can definitely see they're facing this direction for some reason. Which is probably gonna have one death happen. Nope, they're gonna just bring both deaths at the same time, which I'm fine with that. There's some gameplay elements here that feel like you could have expanded on. Have perhaps a mini game when this is resolved, instead of this just being a visual reward for finding an area. You are getting kind of overly rewarded for simply finding a body and then looking through a scene. I've really not done a lot of applaudable action so far. Just making small notes. That's quite the sound of the animal. Okay. So do we want to put these as decapitated or not? And you can see there is something specific about this creature, that either it has kind of a humanoid form on top of it, riding it, or it looks like a humanoid, pretending to look like a human to attack sailors. But there's a whole bunch of spikes here, and you can see it seems like it shot out spikes from that point in this direction. And you can see another one up there. Alright. And see, here's another one with a spear or something. It does kind of look like there's a creature that is able to shoot spikes and might be ridden by another creature. So it kind of feels like there's this whole magical underworld. Let's see. Okay. Decapitated by a beast. That's what I'm gonna say happened to that guy. And then that's what I'm gonna say happened to that guy. Because I think that's what happened. But I kind of need to go back and see the bodies again to find out. You can see it's throwing a lantern trying to burn them. Where's the next body? It's all the way over here, which we know this guy's been spiked. But getting any single name right. Yeah, I think these are both decapitated. It's hard to tell, though. The visual details somewhat lacking with a 1-bit design. I don't know if you really needed that. I'm trying to think if maybe a Batman game would work this way, where you played as a detective as Batman, instead of almost every Batman game being an action experience where you do very little detective work. You can have sections like this, but you couldn't make a whole game like it. Nick. So, this is either Nick or there's a different character named Nick. I don't think this guy is Nick, because we are supposedly getting the scene at the point of impact. So, if somebody's dead named Nick, I don't know who it is. And see, this feels like this happened after the events that we just saw. This person appears blurred throughout the book. The blurring indicates you don't have sufficient information to determine their identity. Trying to name them while their face is blurred would be unproductive. Carry on and pay attention. Faces will become unblurred when information necessary to identify them has been revealed in some way. So it kind of goes to show that, like, he really knew what he was doing and tried really, really hard to make sure that you don't go off on wild tangents or make wild mistakes. You can make a little bit of mistakes, but they don't want you to make huge mistakes. Let's see. Spiked by a terrible beast. You don't have sufficient clues. Interesting. So even the game itself knows I don't have sufficient clues. And I guess I have to go forward with the game. I can't name this guy's Nick. I could imagine expanding a game like this so that some of the memories you go into are just hints and not immediate links to deaths. You could definitely have a bigger, more storyline focused game where this is really just cutting all the extra out, and it's just murder to murder to murder, or death to death to death at least. Where you could easily have had only 10 people die, and then a lot of just conversations that were shown. Yeah. And once again, I'm not sure if this is somebody riding a giant crab or if it's just a terrible beast that looks like a human's riding on it. Okay. So if we have a Nick and no Nicholases, we might be lucky here. Nicholas WITTEREL. I don't think we have any other. I don't think we have any other Nicks. Interesting. Remember, this would have been a different incident. It's not just that the Kraken happened and this happened at the exact same time. This would have had to have happened, and then at least a few minutes later, the Kraken showed up. And so we could try and look at every single arm to see if we could see a tattoo, but most of them have sleeves, so there's not even a lot of help there. Okay, so if I put this that he was spiked. Well done, 3 more fates correct. He may have actually been stabbed, but whatever. That one's right. And 2 and 3. So, was this guy really spiked? See, yeah, being spiked by a terrible beast seems to be the same as being, like, being stabbed by a spear, or speared. In this case, so, whatever. I don't think there's much of a difference there. And here we have the body midair. Which they want to be fancy about that. So it'll be interesting to see if the body stays floating in midair or if it's moved. Because these are kind of just memories, as it were. And this is obviously trying to get you to look up more and see more of the ship, which I could see a lot of players just never looking up. It is fairly common that in video games you can't look up. Even this one has a limit of how far you can look up, but often there's just no reason to look up. Yep. He's the top man. And we're now standing on the area. Interesting. And we haven't walked through the door in quite a while. So it seems like he was straight up hit by lightning. And then let's go ahead and Put him as an unknown top man. And then put him as... I can't zoom in on that guy. Let's go ahead and put him as an unknown top man. Like anybody we see up here, I think we can probably say is a top man, but if the game is gonna say no to that, then I'll play along. So we're actually gonna just use the game's own system against it. And unless we see somebody's arm. Was that the tattoo guy? He was electrocuted. I suppose that's the right answer. Struck wouldn't be the right answer. Okay. Does that guy have the tattoo? I don't see it. I'm confused here because this brought this guy up. I was saying this guy was the one that got electrocuted. So I've labeled the wrong person the wrong thing. Yeah. Did multiple people get electrocuted? I can't get that guy. Can I get this guy? There's a lot of people here, and there's way fewer top men than what I'm labeling as top men. Seems fairly weird that you're kind of limited in your distance. Also kind of fairly weird that you are getting an echoey sound effect. Walking on the ropes. Can I see that? No. So that whole area, while I may have over-labeled people as top men, and it labeled several people as top men that aren't top men, at least that got one definitive death. What weirdly we don't have here is people that are new. Which it feels like that's telling me I've done enough to possibly have found out some more deaths. I think that's what it's telling me is that I should know the solution to something. Either that or some door has been opened. And maybe I just need to be a little bit more of a guesser. And put like the bosun's person, maybe label him as the bosun. Let's see. Like, we could just guess that. We may be wrong, we may be right. But I think at a certain level, guessing is going to become a requirement. Let's run down this way. It's going to be fairly difficult to figure out who those two people are. And then down this way. Here we've got a dead creature. Interesting. So I guess this is the next thing that opens up the next chapter and the next branch. You know what? Come to think of it, even if Lucas Pope was a jack of all trades, he wouldn't be able to have voiced all these characters. So there's definitely got to be some credits at this game, at the end of this game. Clearly somebody voiced these sound effects and these lines of dialogue. It's not a massive amount of dialogue that's been voiced, but enough to show that couldn't have been done by one person. This guy, again, spiked or stabbed, whatever you want to call it. I think in this case, stabbed is probably the right move. And it doesn't seem like there's another body, so this might be a shorter branch. Corpse was moved post-mortem. Let's see. Stabbed actually is missing. Speared by a terrible beast or spiked. We should just leave it with spiked, since we've already gotten one locked down as that. That's the right thing to do, is stick with something we already know works. Well, this is a relatively small branch. It showed one death and that's it. Almost feels like that was a extra thing. So we've got lots and lots of people. Lots and lots of people. Hmm. Okay. See, the problem here is you have a guy in kind of an apron here. You've got a guy who's kind of in an apron there. So it would be fairly difficult to say, oh, right, this is the cook, or, oh, right, this is the surgeon. They could both be butchers for all we know. At pursuer's office. I mean, we could maybe try and guess that he's the pursuer. He could be the surgeon or the surgeon's mate. He could be a carpenter or carpenter's mate. It's a little strange to have a carpenter on board. It would feels like to me. Okay. So unless there's somebody dead behind each of these doors, or at least a lot of these doors. Well, the watch came up for a second. So something is dead here. A casket. Somebody apparently was in a barrel, I guess. Or they got crushed by the barrels. We see this guy. There's a person that's been crushed by cargo. Cargo that was apparently being hoisted up or hoisted down, one way or the other. So does the music continue playing? No, it just takes that abrupt end once the time limit has ended. So it seems like every piece of music has been specifically written and designed to end at a specific time. Although maybe the specific time and the music really don't matter that much. Maybe it just ends when the music is done. An unidentified stowaway expecting free passage and eventual freedom was instead crushed inside a falling barrel. Okay. And in this case, I don't think we even need to know anything, because at the core of it, is this where I am? Like a unidentified stowaway is just not even a concern. We just don't care. Like we're simply using that death like we're using the cow's death, which it really is making a kind of mockery comparison there, to say a stowaway's life is as valuable as the cow's life, or valueless as the cow's life. But see, I think that person was crushed inside the barrel. I think this is actually a crewmate that's crushed under the cargo. These are very large lanterns. Again, perhaps magical. We have a very watery sound now. I think this will have to be our last one. So yeah, he was crushed. And is there... See, people are just kind of working down here. They're not being attacked or murdered. This is the first time we've seen a scene like this, which means we're probably getting into the more difficult part of the game, as strange as it might seem. A section like this probably would have done better to have happened a little bit earlier, 30 minutes to an hour earlier. Who is he? We don't know, but we can say he was crushed under cargo. You would kind of assume that smaller sections like this would need to be dealt with first, and then the larger sections that we've already seen will be dealt with later. I'm not sure the game really plays that way. Like, literally just 2 people died. And we know one of them is an unidentified stowaway. So all we have to do is figure that out and we'd finish a chapter. But there's really no benefit to finishing a chapter. Like, you're not rewarded for that. Here we have some kind of brig or locked section. Right. And I suppose at a certain level, either you can just guess everything, if you're gonna guess everything, since there's no penalty for making a mistake. And if you are hitting that level, then there probably is no real reason to try and give some extra ability. Although I do think an extra ability would probably be appreciated. Like being able to do anything else at all might be appreciated. Right. Orlop, stern, near the tiller. So, yeah, we know one of these people is probably Orlop. We could certainly try and cheat the game. Apparently we do have enough information to know who that guy is. And this was right. And this one's right. That could be Orlop too. We apparently know enough to potentially know who that guy is. Is there even a character named Orlop? Seems like there would be. It would be kind of ridiculous for there not to be a character named Orlop. But Orlop might be some weird Old English term also. Let's see if there's a title named Orlop. Because I don't see an Orlop. There's O names, certainly. One hopes Orlop is not some kind of weird insult. Yeah. So that information doesn't seem like that helped. So we're in this weird position where either there is somebody dead somewhere that I've missed, which is very possible, or we have just missed a lot of information and we are going to have to just start to make some guesses. Either one of those, like here, this guy. This guy is next to the purser's office. So let's just say he's the purser. Let's say he's Duncan McKay. Why not? If we're wrong, we're wrong. And the game will not confirm it. We saw in a memory, and we may have to go back and see in a memory later, a person that could have been the doctor. And this really might just boil down to having to open every single door. Let's see. Let's go ahead and say he's an unknown officer. Because he's in officer's quarters. Why not? Ah, there is one area over here for one more death. So we aren't really to the point where we need to just start guessing. But we are certainly now way further. We've deduced everything except for murder, it seems, in the calling. Alright, and unholy captives. Okay, so we're probably about probably about halfway through the book as far as information we'll collect for a while, and then once we have collected everything, we'll probably have much bigger chances of actually succeeding at guessing things. I guess maybe we just don't ever actually get a different sketch. It's just these sketches. Which there's somebody here that signed this ES. Did he sign all of these? Because if ES was signing it, then did we have somebody here that is a artist sketcher? Yeah, Edward Spratt. Well, we don't know how he died, but we know he drew the pictures. So that's a little bit of information if we can find somebody that is got pen and paper in their hand. Yeah, and I guess there might be... It seems kind of like there's nothing we will use this for too much. Although it does seem to kind of indicate the route and the events in order. So soldiers at sea, and then the doom, and then the escape, and then the end. So they started with loose cargo. So they were leaving England. Somebody died from loose cargo. Then they sailed for quite a while, and then the bitter cold struck, and then they had to slaughter a cow, which honestly, if they were sailing close enough that they could see the shoreline, they should have gotten provisions here in what I think would be Spain. And then at some point they go very, very far, and then they at some point turn around, and then on their way back it's doomed. And so the end ends here, and somehow the ship makes it from off the coast of Madeira in the Azores, or in between those two, all the way to close enough to England that they actually were able to find it instead of it just drifting off to sea. Of course, a map like this scale is hard to keep an eye on, really. This could be hundreds of miles in between. But yeah, that information is not anywhere as useful as this information, and this information itself has now become very confusing. So this memory led to this memory, came from that memory, came from that memory, came from that memory, came from that memory. I don't recall seeing anybody ever actually look at these maps when I saw other people playing this game, so maybe this is new. But also, it certainly helps you map out if you've not found something. Because if you were to say go this way and realize actually there's more to see, then you would just investigate this memory and walk around. But I don't think the game actually lets you do that either. I think that is the door in effect forces you to go through each of the patterns. Let's see, I think I labeled that guy as something other than a midshipman. I think I labeled him as a bosun. Oops. Which, if I was to hit this, yeah. Let's address that. He is some unknown midshipman. You probably would want these. So yeah, this is where you're standing. So I'm in the first mate's quarters. Then this map actually could be potentially useful. Errors indicate the flow of time. Interesting. Alright, well, I don't think we're going to get any further. Here's a candlestick to get back to that clue reference. That's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.